Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sydney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Psych.Club, from the Tom Numbers Show and News with Tom Numbers. And I've got the ever fantastic JANINE MORIGEAU. JANINE, how are you?
Hi, Tom. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I say I'm good. I am good. I had some sad news today, which we'll probably look at on the show. Yeah, I am good. Let's dive into it. So people will know that watch my channel. I used to know the actor Michael Gambon. He played Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films, and he was Eddie Temple in Layer Cake. He was the singing detective. He was in Kingsman, which I think is a Q movie. But anyway, he passed today. I've been dreading this day for a while, and I got a little bit teary about it earlier on, actually. But he was really kind to me. Whatever. I hope he's, fully on our. So we'll look at it with the cards. But he was really kind. Back in 2016, I got to know him. Well, late 2015, then 2016. But he agreed to do a show with me. So it was the first sit-down show with someone that was, really big and famous. And it was the idea for a what do you call it? Not a teaser. A demo of a talk show, which I've got now, the Tom Numbers Show. But back then, no one knew who I was or anything. But he was really kind to give me his time and to do a show. And he was always just lovely. So I got a bit teary about it. And I've been dreading this day for a while. And I wonder if he went a little while ago. I haven't seen him for a few years. I've spoken to him a couple of times during this period since 2020. But yeah, the numbers are interesting on it. So let's have a look at the cards. What does it say about Michael? Has Michael really gone on? Is he in witness protection? Was he with us? Was he, let's have a look.
Looks like you did lose him.
Okay.
Recently. So I'm thinking that could be true, what the date is. Looking at that ace there.
Yeah.
Then as far as whose side was he on? I feel like he might have nodded to everything we're all about, but he wasn't officially signed up from what I can see, like not a signed on white hat, but he certainly wasn't a black hat. You know what I mean?
Good. That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah. He knew some things. He knew some dark things about the industry he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sensed that. Yeah, I sensed that. I did a little, so I put up the video again of me interviewing him from a number of years ago, but we've added numbers, etc. to it. So that's up on YouTube. And then I just put up on my locals, just a tribute to him, just a 10-minute tribute that I did. And something he said to me was after we did the show, I said, oh, who are because he mentioned people like Daniel Craig, the James Bond. He mentioned Ian McKellen, who's the other wizard in the other shows, and Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. And I said, oh, could you, would they be open to doing a show? And maybe didn't want to, go further, which was fine. But he did say in private to me, which I think I can say now, he said about Ian McKellen, he just said he's weird. He said, yeah, Ian's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. And I've met Ian McKellen very briefly, and he is kind of peculiar. Let's have a look at Ian McKellen. Naughty boy.
I'd say he's messed around in the party substance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And gotten real close to some really ugly. I mean, if you're doing that.
Yeah.
You've seen some really gross things and maybe even been involved.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was this card here. So I wonder if he's already, because this is our in the war card.
Yeah.
And a strategy card. I wonder if they know about him or they've approached him to roll over, you know what I mean? Some information to get a lighter, like dealt with lighter, something like that. Yeah, he's known about, they know about him.
Yeah. That kind of makes sense, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Good old Uncle Michael. That's what I used to call him. I'd call him up and I'd say, it's young Tom. He said, oh, hello, we must do lunch. And we were supposed to do that, but he just was getting more and more old as time was going on. Okay, that's good to know with Michael. So maybe it was recent. Yeah, maybe it was recent. Interesting thing on his numbers is his name's Michael Gambon. Michael's 51, which is great, which is also QQQ or 17, 17, 17. Gambon's 52, which is heart. So Michael Gambon's 103, which comes to September, and he died in the month of September. 103 is princess. That always makes me think of Diana. Jack Kennedy's 103, 103. And he died at 82, and 82 plus 103 is 185, Donald John Trump. So I was like, I wonder if that's a kind of nod, you know. Maybe we could look at that. Is that a nod? Is there some significance in that, Janine? Is that a nod from Mr. T and the White Hats? I love that name. You should do a T-shirt.
Lots of people like that name.
Great name.
And interesting. So it's not really answering the question. It's saying the people involved in the war were watching, we're in it because the whole world's involved, obviously. And this could be my this is the good military and the people involved. And here we've got the justice card. Somehow it's wanting to talk more about your friend as known to be a good person, truth and integrity, and might have even given some verbal affirmations to some of the goings on with that card.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so in a way that seems like your numbers are nodding there. I think that's confirms that.
Brilliant. This is him. This is 2016 when we did the interview. There he is. Yeah, that's good to know, Janine, because I was getting a bit choked when I did the little tribute to him, and I just was like, saying this is such a complex game, you know. But I also look at it as like, well, he dealt with me. Out of all the people that said no back in the day, he was kind enough to say yes. So it's like, yeah, he was a good-hearted man, and that's a relief and a nice confirmation, because I felt he was good because the way he was with me, you know, you can kind of judge how people are. I mean, for instance, I've met Quentin Tarantino for all of about 5 seconds, and he's as dark as you could possibly imagine in person.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a bit of my soul essence kind of got tucked away, and I've only had that a few times. I was like, whoa, he's like super just chilling, you know. But Michael was lovely, just a really kind person. So that's great to know. Also, today is September 28th. So the numbers on that, September again is 103, as we said. 20 is 107, which is military. And you brought up that military card, which is interesting. Military is quantum, military is trumps, military is eternal life, it's Aquarius, it's Superman. They showed the Superman films again at the weekend. It's also warp speed. But then 8th is 57, which is human, which is magician. He played, you know, Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films. England is 57. He was a full English guy, well, Irish and English, British. But you add those together. So 28th comes to 164, which comes to an interesting thing, comes to a date, it comes to 5th of November. And I've been feeling that we're going to see a lot of people around this election time next year, people like Diana and others stepping forward. I think that's what's going to happen. And it also comes to the mothership. And I was watching just last night the Bohemian Rhapsody film, Queen, and Freddie Mercury's character says, I need to reconnect with the mothership. And it stood out to me. It's like, I know what the mothership is. The mothership is, you know, the New Jerusalem. It's that off. Well, it's the ship. And I was like, okay. But today's date, 28th, is 164, which that comes to. I've got a question. So I don't know if when you visited, did you get to London when you came over?
Not when I came over, but I've been to London.
Okay.
Some years ago, but I've been there. Yeah.
Okay. Because London is gematria. London is tarot 74. They're both the same thing. So, you know, that's all there. But one of the things in English tradition, and also I guess globally, but particularly here in England, is the phrase "remember the 5th of November." That comes to 355 in numbers. And there was that film that came out a year or two ago, and everyone in the community for a few days was like, "Oh, the 355 is this really big code number." And I looked at it, and I've got some other codes on it since, but 355 comes to Westminster Parliament Square. And Parliament Square, I think, is a pivotal thing in all of this in terms of reveals that will come, but also other places around the world, other places on the board. But the interesting thing about this is where Diana had her funeral in Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey is like a thief in the night. It's Mount Rushmore. It comes to the figure 200. But the first code I got for numbers, well, I had one back with my cousin and Ivanka, but spring of 2020, I started looking at Diana, and I saw her funeral service start time was 9:08, 9 plus 8. That's 17, it's Q. I was like, and this all came in a period of like 24, 36, 48 hours on it, kind of pieced it all together, because I didn't know what numbers were back then. I didn't know it, it just kind of came intuitive. Yeah. But the interesting thing about this is 50 yards away from Westminster Abbey, on Parliament Square, where the 88 bus goes around, interestingly enough, 88's Trump.
Yeah.
There's the statue of Abraham Lincoln, which is 123, which is silver gold, which is Eric Trump. And it's looking down on a bus stop number. It's not actually a number, it's a letter. And it's the letter Q. And I was like, who put that there?
Wow.
Who put that there? And I noticed this in the first few months of lockdown, because I used to just go walking around or cycling around all around London, beautiful sunshine for 3 months. I just was exploring everywhere and finding all this stuff. And then I either did it at the time, or I've done it again recently, where 123 Abraham Lincoln looks down at Q 17, add it together comes to 140, which comes to the apprentice, the Trumps, the military, the quantum, comes to Tom numbers. And I was like, okay, thank you, I love that. So my question is, who put that bus stop there, and who named it that number? Was it White Hats? Was it our future selves? Who was it? Because it's been put there for a reason. And you can see it to this day. Anyone can go down there and get a picture with Abraham Lincoln and the Q bus stop. You've got a nice Q card there.
Yeah. That world card. So a gateway. I think it was done in the past. Yeah. Looking at that. So it was done in the past because they knew about what was coming. Okay. And it's been there for a while. But it was enlightened beings that did it. So that doesn't feel like regular humans.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, some of us are trying to be enlightened, but for the most part, I'm thinking we're talking alliance.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It's like a Pokemon Go, you know, that game where you discover these things along the way. It's like, who put that there? It's like, that just adds up completely. Okay, another question. Is there a military industrial complex below Parliament Square? Oh, you dropped your cards.
This one's dropping. 6 of Pentacles. Something about the money system. Goes around, comes around. I've been getting nonstop, off topic here, but it's interesting that this popped out. That, the next big thing, drop sort of thing to shift everything is going to have something to do with the money. I mean, it's fairly obvious that has to happen. We're bumping into that wall. Where the system has to admit they got a whole nother system in the background.
You just had a little fairy go off when you said that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Or a little,
okay, so tell me your question again.
Is there, so I think there's a whole thing with the system connected to the whole thing of, you know, next year's election. But is there or was there a military industrial complex right below Parliament Square?
So if there was, and she's a pentacle, so there's a good likelihood, that's been moved or changed.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and it's now in or it was moved or changed by, that's Trump and the White Hats.
Yeah.
That card. Or the team of. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't literally mean Trump, but
Yeah,
I
the
know
team,
he's
the white,
the
the white
yeah,
hats.
he's the head of a team. Yeah.
Mr. T and the White Hats, the rock and roll band.
Yeah.
Is there or was there any form of like an ancient pyramid or an off-world spaceship pyramid below that point in Westminster, where the River Thames is, where the Wheel is, where Parliament is, where the Square is?
Interesting. Again, with her again, there's a likelihood of it, but this 4 is going to keep it hidden for now.
Okay.
So not that they want you going down there looking for it.
Yeah. I think we'd have to go quite far down if we did. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I've got a question about, I don't think we've done this one with him before, Conor McGregor. So it looks to me like he's been swapped out a while ago. It looks quite obvious to me. I don't know if you've ever done reads on Conor McGregor, the MMA fighter. But the one that's popping around now is a lot heavier. Okay, you can put on weight as an athlete, etc. But his face looks different. And I know he's he's a fighter, boxer, and so his face could be changed, but he just looks different. My friend Ricky Lambert, the footballer truther, he can see that, Conor McGregor's changed. So can my brother. He can see it. There's a lot of people that can see it. So my question is, what's the deal with Conor McGregor? Is he part of central casting? Is he just playing this role now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a younger character.
Okay.
Playing him.
Okay.
And this is interesting. So I don't think, are you thinking he's a bad guy? I wonder if he got out of the way.
That's what I was wondering. If the original is not him anymore, he's gone, then was he swapped out? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think he just got out of the way, and maybe because he knew what was going on, or because he had some information. Because this card can be about information coming out, speaking and writing, and moving it in a positive direction. And this is signaling and or all kinds of energy focused in a direction. And it has something to do with what these guys have been doing. So Khazarian mafia types.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking he wasn't a bad person from what I'm seeing there.
So can we look, is he in some form of protection now? And then are we seeing like a double that's, doing his role, but the original's out of the way and protected? Is that why we see kind of the different in the visual if he got out of the way?
Hidden. So that can be hidden, and levels of, I would say protected, especially because the moon card is being aspected by this. This is a good military. So he might have been taken somewhere, and maybe even to the moon. I mean, off planet or something. Like, things get crazy, right? And the last time I had a look at the moon, I mean, I've looked at it over the years, and it definitely looks like it's some kind of it's not an organic. It was put there, and it's been back and forth, and different parts of it have been ruled by and or it's been fought over, let's say. So it's been a big part of the war. And maybe there's an area that they bring people for protection.
Okay. Interesting. I remember doing a show with Juan, I think earlier this year or late last year, about the moon, and he said it was basically the forbidden planet. It was a spaceship that was up there, a space station, just up there doing its thing. Yeah. They had some soft disclosure on that with a film that Brad Pitt was in for lockdown, space movie, and they went up there and they saw people, I think it was the dark side of the moon or the other side of the moon, and they were showing, people up there, a base up there, which they didn't think about, that they were surprised about. I've got a question about Diana, and I was talking to Ricky Lambert. I did a show with Mark a day or two ago as well, So I was talking to Mark about the coronavirus puzzle that Boris Johnson mentioned. And in numbers, coronavirus puzzle comes to 261, which comes to August 31st, which is the date that Diana went in 1997. It comes to November 22nd, which is the date of JFK in 63. It comes to John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JR. It comes to the Project Looking Glass. It comes to the United States of America. It comes to National Security Agency. It comes to a lot of these important numbers. It comes to August 29th in Terminator, 261 again. But I mentioned this thing of the puzzle to Mark, coronavirus puzzle, and Boris said there's a key to it, so you can figure it out. And I got that early lockdown. I was like, well, we can figure it out. Anyway, the papers yesterday had a bit with puzzle. So they had a bit with Trump, they had a bit about a puzzle, and then they had a self-reference to itself. So it's Daily Star, which is 109, which is 17, which is Diana Spencer, which is Psych.Club, which is Witness, which is Zapruder. I've never seen this before, though, where they actually got the title of the newspaper, they put it in the front of the picture, and they said, Daily Star saves the planet. And I was like, really? And so I said to Ricky, because Ricky was saying, we were having a chat late that night, a couple of nights ago, and he said, okay, I can see Trump and the military saving America, but what happens here? What happens in England? And I said, okay, do you really want me? He said, who's going to do it? What's going to happen? And I said, okay, I think there are plans set in place, but he's like, well, who's, you know, what figurehead, who's going to kind of lead it? I said, okay, in my honest opinion, I just blew it out to him. I just said, I think Diana will come back, and then that will wake everyone up, England, but also the rest of the world, and she will be this figurehead that people will listen to and understand and want to get in line with, because she'll tell the truth of what's gone on. And her name is 109, which is Diana Spencer, which is Daily Star. So the next morning, the newspaper comes out and says, Daily Star will save the world. And I showed it to Rick, and I was like, okay, it's confirmed the conversation you and me have had, and it also confirmed the show that me and Mark were doing about the coronavirus puzzle. Coronavirus puzzle is 261, which is August 31st, which is the day that supposedly Diana went, So, and there's Trump as well. Trump's there. So I wondered, was that, our off-world team, our alliance team, our Q team, giving us a nod in that newspaper about the conversation I'd had with Ricky and the show I did with Mark, all in the space of about 6 or 7 hours.
Let's see. So the magician, I think it's almost like it isn't purposeful. It's more a spiritual connection. It's kind of a spiritual connection where you're being confirmed, but the spirit world's just reflecting something for you. You know how I go in nature and I get confirmations about what's going on by the behavior of animals and birds, and that's a real indigenous sort of North American indigenous peoples thing. And I think a lot of indigenous peoples do that, and just humans, for many years have been doing that. Okay, so it's not just indigenous, of course, but I feel like these confirmations come for you because the universe wants to nod to that you're on the right path. So even if they didn't purposely place it there, it's like some kind of vortex you work with that. It's your reflection. It's like your crystal ball.
Yes.
To keep you on track. Like everybody has things that they reflect back with. Mine's nature, some people's are clouds, some people are, everybody's got different ones. And I think that one's yours. It's a reflection from nature, and you work energetically with it. There's a lot of magic in the world, and we're very magical creatures. And it's like we forgot that if we ask for answers, certain things will start showing us answers, and you found yours. You look to that, and it reflects back to you. So it's like the chaos of the universe putting it together. But of course, the universe is not chaos. It's actually very specific, in my opinion. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. That totally makes sense. I agree with that. I thank you as well. And I do think it's completely deliberate. I don't think it's quite what we, I guess, in the 3D, the nuts and bolts of it. I think it's something far bigger, far more exciting, far more kind and generous and loving than we think at first, you know. Another question I've got, and this might be along the same sort of answer. So there's one of my favorite films is the film Heat, which De Niro and Pacino are in, Val Kilmer, and it's by the director Michael Mann, who I did speak to actually about doing an interview like I did with Michael Gambon. I got through to Michael, but then he put me to the secretary and never heard back. But you know, that's kind of by the by. But the word heat comes to 34, which comes to grace, comes to DJT, it comes to leap, and next year we're going into a leap year, and I think that's when things really jump, they leap forward in progress. But I've seen it a number of times, and I think it's a great movie. Anyway, it was on, and I keep feeling they're putting these movies out for me to watch and decode, and you know, as they've been doing, but I get to see them. Anyway, I'm watching it, right at the end, the credits come up, and I almost miss it, but I catch it, and my name comes up, Tom Numbers comes up in the credits, and I'm like, what? I think I might have mentioned it to you.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I was like, what the heck? So I don't even have a rewind on the TV. It's quite a basic thing here, you know. I don't usually watch TV, but you know, the odd movie or cat, etc.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up on YouTube, got the end credits of the film, and there it was, Tom Numbers. I was like, what? I showed it to my brother, and he's like, because he hears my stuff, and we get synchronicities. We call it the game, and he's like, I think you might be onto something because it just keeps happening. And I was at the time talking a lot about simulation, and it says Tom Numbers, and it's not a real name, is it? I mean, it's my name, but it's not. You know, I don't know anyone with the last name Numbers, so it's a name. It's a created name, so it's not like Tom Smith or Tom Jones or Tom Brown or Tom Bushnell, you know, which is very rare. But it's Tom Numbers, and but it was with 6 other people, and they were called costumers. So I guess they're people that make costumes in the movies. And I worked out the numbers on costumers with an S, and it comes to 133, which comes to simulation. I was like, okay, there you go. So it's the simulation winking, you know, the universe winking.
Yeah.
But apparently this guy, Tom Numbers, is in Hollywood, has been in a number of films, you know, in the end credits, but I've never, ever noticed it before. So I just wondered, you look like you're going to say something.
No, that's just fun.
It is fun. It's like, I was like, so we'll probably see Tara by Jay in you know, in the next few days. The funny thing is, the day after, my brother was watching Indiana Jones 5, and my friend Anthony Dixon, who's a friend of mine that I grew up with, his full name, Anthony Dixon, was in the Indiana Jones credits. So I was like, okay, my other friends, I want to see you in movies now. But can we look at that? Was that just the universe doing the thing again? Has that person always been around, or is that a creative character? You know, what's the feeling on that? Because it's cool. It's very cool and fun.
That's the universe doing its thing again.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. So if we can delve into that further, is this Tom Numbers person a real person? Like, do they exist, or has it just been put there by the universe for some God winks and for some fun and just to, you know, keep on track? If you're watching Tom Numbers, get in touch.
Yeah.
The costumer.
Well, they might have manipulated their name.
Yeah, I'm sure
and they might have also changed it since, or they've changed it to be Tom Numbers.
Really?
They're some kind of childhood disappointment, maybe in their family name or something. Some kind of disappointment led them to changing their name. So yeah, I think it's a real person who chose Tom Numbers for whatever personal reason, but that's beside the point. I think for you, it is a nod and a wink from the universe.
Yeah.
For you to even spot it.
Yes, I think, yeah, thank you. I agree, because I could have missed it. Talking of films, so Oppenheimer, have you seen, I don't know if you get to see many movies, but
I haven't
Oppenheimer.
seen it yet, but
okay,
wanting to see it.
Yeah, well, this isn't going to spoil it for you, but
Okay.
there's a nod to JFK right at the end of the movie.
Okay.
And I've been saying for a long time that Christopher Nolan, I believe, is a white hat director. In fact, he is, because all of his stuff is so dense with coded information. In Inception, which I think is his best one, but they're all great, he says positive emotion always trumps negative emotion. and that was a nod to Trump. He did the film Dunkirk in 2017, 217, that's when Q came out. 217 is also Mission Impossible. It's also Lady Diana Francis Spencer. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, actually, Houses of Parliament. But he did the film Dunkirk, and you spell that in numbers, it's 88 Trump. There's a bit with Kenneth Branagh at the end of the film says the word Deal. Deal is like a little kind of tiny coastal town that most people have never heard of in England. And Kenneth Branagh says at the end of the film, "Are you from Deal?" When they kind of have the victory. "Are you from Deal?" He could have said anything. He could have said Worthing, Brighton, Dover, anything, but he chooses Deal. Deal is art of the deal. President Trump. Deal is 22, which is MAGA. But the word Dunkirk is 88. Then his next film is a tiny short film, which is like about 8 or 9 minutes long, and 8 + 9, 17 cube. But the film is called Quay, which is Quay, like a quay, a boat, where the jetty. But I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that's a quay. Because it's not even about boats, it's about these puppeteers. It's about 8 or 9 minutes, and it's got nothing to do with anything. But the title of the film is Quay, Quay. And then his next film is Tenet, which is 64, which is Jubilee, which is Israel, which is movie. 8 times 8 is 64. And then his next one's Oppenheimer, which is 124, which is gigawatts, which is compassion. But at the end of the film in Oppenheimer, he says there's a reference to JFK. So I guess the question is Nolan nodding, he mentions JFK in that. Are we going to see JFK? Is that a nod to seeing, a reveal of JFK soon in the not too distant future? Will he come back with everybody else?
Yeah, that's about 3 questions. So let's.
I know, I was going to say that. There's probably quite a few, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's take each bit? Yeah. What's
Okay,
the
so
the first one?
with...
The first one, yeah. What should we start with? The first one is Christopher Nolan deliberately putting JFK in there. I think it's an obvious answer. I think it's a yes.
Well, Sun is yes.
Okay.
And the Fool, so he's doing it in a way to not appear like he is. So he's not being super obvious about it, but he's absolutely part of that working it. Yeah. And and I know there's lots out there doing that, and has been for years.
Yes. Yeah, there are. And that's the other thing with films. So they're showing a lot of old films as well nowadays, and you can see the bad stuff in it, but I think it's, you take your choice, and you did a great post, I think, yesterday about it. Whatever you choose, what you choose from the potpourri, from the buffet of life, is what you get, So if you want to see positive things, you'll get them. And I am seeing all these positive things, even in, films that may not on the surface appear to be positive. I guess the other question with JFK is, are we going to see him along with the others make a return of some description, or a direct description?
So 2 warring cards. So that's interesting. There could be some dispute about if and when.
Okay.
That's in the middle. So whether they should stay hidden or not, or how long they should stay hidden. I feel like that's still up for debate.
Okay.
And I've been getting that for quite a while now, where it looks like they're debating on, or trying to decide when they're going to do that. Maybe individually or as a group.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if I've ever asked you this one, but particularly early lockdown, when President Trump was in office, I could see, at least we've said that there's a number of different Trumps, and people that pay close attention can kind of see that, and so they're all working to the same objective. But the POTUS that was in the White House, that particularly did the Abraham Accords, was that ever JFK playing Trump just for fun? I think real Donald Trump was always the guy out on the runway by the plane that would always talk to the press. But the one signing the Abraham Accords, was that ever JFK playing Trump? Yes.
That's a yes.
Okay.
Oh, man. And this card's under deep cover.
Yeah.
So yeah. Clearly.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks for that. I thought so.
That's a surprise, actually.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Can we look at, I don't know, well, let's look at it. What do you get around election next year? The calling election made sure, 246, yes, the 5th of November. What do you get? In the twinkling of an eye, Diana, the Princess of Wales, 246. What do you get around that, Janine? Maybe we just have a look and just delve into it. What do we see?
I think a lot of things are going to come to pass before that.
Okay.
And that may take us on a different path than elections. And if you think about it, if what we're saying is true about what happened in the past, and the more and more it becomes obvious to everybody, not just truthers, that all the elections have been stolen for many years in all the countries, most of the countries. They've all been, and it's all been just a big farce. It would be really weird to have the elections. This doesn't really look like we get there. This looks like things happening that are fast approaching, could take us off that course. And then we've got temperance, patience and perseverance. Well, yeah, we've been very patient. This is, you know what I mean? It's been a long, hard haul. And you can imagine if you were a white hat, how long and hard it's been. And then this too, the temperance card is universal timing is at play. Universal timing. In other words, we don't get to know exactly when, but things are going to change.
You just had another one go past you then.
Cool. I actually caught the glimpse of that one. Things are going to change exactly when the universe says it's the perfect time. But it's not really looking like getting all the way there to that election to me.
Okay. Interesting. What do you get about the pause? So President Trump spoke about the pause, and he said in classic Trumpism ways, he said we had to have a pause, you know, so people could see what's gone on. And it's been 2 years. In fact, it will be, you know, 4 years. So from the point of the last one in 2020, so he's saying a 4-year period. He's saying the pause is a 4-year period. And the interesting thing about that is pause is 62, which is Queen, but the pause is 95, which is emergency, but it's also promise, and it's also Tuesday, which is the day of the year that the election supposedly will take place next year. But yeah, any thoughts on what the card's saying about the pause?
So that's been coming up as the war card. So the war that we're fighting. Okay. And this is an ending. So I think the wrap up has been the pause. So he's speaking maybe to the wrap up. This card's and also the outing, and so people stop believing the facades. So they needed to take the time to out these people so the pause seems to be talking about the in-between time they needed to do those things, wrap things up, show people what's false and what's, because this card's kind of a fakery card in a way. Notice how everything's just shiny, and like there's a lot of people out there that actually think they're, you know, and even though they're doing things that are unbelievable, they're their own selves, and people are finding that out. You know, I feel like I feel like they needed to let that sink in, and that's what the pause means.
Okay, interesting. So I mentioned I watched Superman and Superman 2 again at the weekend. And I've mentioned this before, I think on one or two things, but not really in depth, or maybe, well, a little bit. I wanted to ask this. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Christopher Reeve Superman films back in the 70s and 80s, you know, so actually, interestingly enough, his former wife is kind of a local around here, but she's a friend of a friend. Anyway, so at the end of Superman 2, you know, you got the three baddies. You got the big guy, you got General Zod, played by Terrence, can't remember his name, Terrence someone, and then the woman. And so it's 3 against 1 against I was about to say Trump, it's against Superman. Trump's is 107, Superman's 107, Atonement's 107, Quantum 107. Anyway, so his love interest, Lois Lane, actually, no, that's in the end of the last one. I'm sticking to the part 2. So with the 3 baddies, Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, they're up in the ice bit. Ice is 17Q, which is interesting. It's kind of got this Antarctic reference, but I think it's supposed to be the North Pole. I know Antarctic's the South Pole, but that's where Superman dwells. It's this crystal kind of cave thing. Anyway, they trick Superman into going into this chamber that will rid him of his powers. And I've seen this for a while, and I've known that the word warp speed, so we'll be careful what we're saying, but the word warp speed is 107, which is Superman 107, which is military 107, which is Trump's 107, which is atonement 107, Aquarius 107, eternal life 107, 20 107. There's another one, but I've forgotten. And they put Superman into there. And then he comes out and he's all kind of humble before them and they think they've rid him of his powers. They've made him into a mortal man again. He's still, wearing his cape and stuff. But then he says, kneel before me, kneel before Zod. And he makes, grabs his hand and Superman's kneeling. And then he crushes him and then holds him up and throws him off. And Lois Lane turns around and punches the woman. Because what they've done is they've reversed the power upon them. So I'm wondering, is there a connection between 107, which is warp speed, and 107 is Superman, and 107 is military, and 107 is Trump's? Is there a connection between warp speed and Superman and Trump's, i.e. what they saw in that film, swapping it? People think it's one thing, but it's completely the reverse. Is there an element of that?
Well, just watching what's been going on for the last 4 years, I'd say absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 8, the Tower. And yes. So yes. And then it's got, so yes.
Yeah.
The Tower. I feel like the warp speed, the full ramification of warp speed is still coming.
Okay.
I feel like it somehow connects to something that's coming, and it could be an event. And I think there's several events more coming. I don't think we're done with events. Like, events are going to happen. But yes, to warp speed being like how you described it, being connected for sure and involved now. And then this 8 says, and there's still more of that to come that will connect to warp speed as well.
Okay. The best is yet to come. There's more of that to come. I like that. There's more of that to come. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, events. Have you done any readings recently on any events that you think are going to come?
Well, I often look at, like, people ask all the time. So I always get the same thing. It could be a lot of events within a few days or hours.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like it'll just be one event. It could be lots around the world.
Yes.
Does it like steps out the military around the world in front of their governments.
Yes.
And starts things really taking down, like, kind of like just takes down those systems.
Yeah.
Then out comes all the truth. And I don't know how they're going to do that, but through medias, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to happen all around the world in different ways, and different places have already had events. Like, look at what happened in.
Yeah, I get that. I get the multiple events, but like, I guess, which is one big massive event, but all these places, these destinations around the world. So I think there'll be a massive thing in London. I think New York, I think Washington. I think we'll see something at Mount Rushmore. I think Paris.
The Vatican, maybe.
Yeah, Vatican, yeah. And other places around the globe, and I think it will all be, like you say, in hours. That makes total sense. I think simultaneously, but it'll be, I think it'll be a pack of, a line of dominoes. Just, I remember a mentor saying to me years ago that if you're going to do something, you hit it all at once at the same time, because then they can't, they're scared, they can't do anything. Then it's like, okay, just. And then it's like, the whole landscape has changed. And that's That's what it feels like. That's, you know, numerous events simultaneously all happening around the same time, you know. Do you get anything with that whole thing, that Q post, a week to remember? Have you looked at that Q post, a week to remember? It's about, it looks the shape of a revolver, the way they've staggered the writing, but what does it say? Dark to light, a week to remember, blackout necessary, a whole bunch of things, and then Q at the bottom. Yeah. Can we look at the whole thing of a week to remember? What do we see with the week to remember? What do the cards say on that?
Well, we've got a page which is a yes. So there is going to be a week, might be more like 8 days. So that's interesting. There's an 8 there. So that's interesting. And it's still to come by the look of it, 2 pages on either side. So yes, but it's still to come. So I think the week to remember is maybe what we're talking about, all those events.
Yeah.
Some of them water, some of them fiery, we'll just say, some of them. Like I'm gonna say earth, wind, fire, air.
Very good.
Things coming through the air, things coming up under the earth, so volcanic. I think all the elements will be involved. Flooding, like
those 4 elements you just said. So earth, air, water, fire. In numbers comes to 185. Donald John Trump, Book of Revelation, the silver reset. That's interesting. And that Q post, when it says a week to remember, so we've got that whole thing in I guess folklore about remember the 5th of November, but a week to remember is 159 in numbers, which comes to John Kennedy, JR, comes to the Chinese elders, it comes to it comes to those. And then if you do just week to remember, so you take the A off, that's 158, which is remember. But it's also top trumps as well, which is another thing that we've had in our, in our popular iconography of everyone knows the game top trumps. It's like, how did that get there? Who put that there? Remember, 158 is top trumps. It's like the trump card gets pulled. Can we look at that? I suspect I might know what the answer is, but maybe we'll get surprised. Who created top trumps? I mean, who put that together?
Like, what do you mean? Like the phrase trumps?
Yeah, so there's a game, there's a card game, top trumps, so everyone gets a score. I mean, I haven't researched it, or maybe I did ages ago. I don't think it's on the surface directly related to Donald Trump, but it probably is. I'm wondering if it's got origins in things like, the Trump time travel books and stuff. But top trumps is 158, which is remember.
Again, placed there maybe?
Yeah.
To be discovered later.
Yeah. Okay,
so don't forget that these guys are, so that could be White Hat Alliance. Don't forget that these guys are time travelers. Yeah. So I feel like, time doesn't exactly work. I mean, time travelers is a simplified way of saying it, but I think what I mean is time doesn't work the way we think it does. So they can play around with time different than we can, which is something really interesting. Every day I see somebody talking about, like, for instance, your friend, and no disrespect, who just passed away, we were just talking about at the beginning of the show, I thought passed years ago. I was sure I heard about his passing years ago. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like what is that called when that happens? The something effect. Oh yeah, the Mandela effect. Yeah. Yeah. People are always talking about these Mandela effects, and it's ramping up. Like a song isn't, the words aren't the same as you absolutely remember singing it when you were a kid, and they changed the words on you. Things like that are happening a lot. And I feel like all of that is trying to wake us up to that time doesn't really work the way we think it does. Yeah. Do you think, I mean, this might be an obvious question, but maybe we'll get some mechanics around it. So understanding things like time travel,
understanding things like how time doesn't really exist the way we think it does, understanding things like magic, you know, powers and abilities that we have that have been dormant within us that we maybe not exercised as much. I mean, we're going through this process, so our faculties have been heightened. But do you think once we get to this event or event week or event 8 days or 10, whatever it is, 10 days, 17 days, however long it will be, do you feel that once we get to that point, we're going to see a exponential rapid growth and acceleration of reveals on those things? Because that would really make, you know, life on Earth just out of this world, wouldn't it?
I feel like we're already experiencing that. So moving out of troubled water, but this can also be swift action, moving to the positive. And then we've got the strength. We've already upgraded a lot. And people that are open to it and allowing themselves to, like, and or even noticing, they've noticed that their intuition's sharper. I got people writing me all the time and writing in the comments that they're feeling like they're picking up on, they're channeling, they're giving themselves permission to be the magical creatures they are. It's already happening. I think that's over the whole process here. That's happening. It might ramp up, but it's already been happening.
Cool. Very cool. I wonder as well, can we look at leap years? What do the cards say about leap years? Because we're coming into another one. So just as a reminder, we had the Olympic ceremony 2012. They showed us some things in that. 2016, I did my interview with Michael Gambon, but we had all these celebrities die or go into protection. Prince, George Michael, David Bowie, Carrie Fisher, Johan Cruyff, all these people. Leicester City win the Premier League. Brexit happens. Brexit in numbers is 78 Kennedy. So we heard that for 3 years. Kennedy, 78 all the time in England and around the world. Trump got in office, or he's voted in. So all those things happened in 2016. And then we hit the big one in 2020 where the world changed. So I feel that 2024 is going to be another quantum leap of probably 10 times bigger than what we just saw.
You bet.
Yeah.
Huge awareness of, by then, a lot of people will know about what's been happening in the enslavement of the human race.
Yeah.
Also, they'll know about the alliance. So future selves been helping us through this, which is pretty a big stretch for a lot of people. Other dimension beings or people from like in a more advanced humanity. I mean, that's wild, right?
Yeah.
And also that they've been helping us through this time. Like, so that there's going to be a lot of revelations that could be very shocking, obviously, especially when it comes to this bunch. And we won't talk too much about that because I don't know what channel we're on here, but this bunch,
we'll keep it clean.
You know, human beings. And here we've got, so the big out sort of overview of it is, it's like we're in another whole new world. And financially a different world too.
Wow.
Yeah. So that the outcome's positive, but it's the reveals first are going to be wild. Yeah. And shocking for people. So we're going to ramp up. The leap year is going to be ramped up. Leap is, because quantum leap is 141. The quantum leap is 174. Real Donald Trump. Currency exchange, trust the plan. So I've got a final question before we wrap up because we're coming close to the hour now. So I mentioned it before, but President Trump talks about central casting a lot. And central casting in numbers is 146. So it's when he identifies an actor, you know, someone's being played by an actor. And I believe there's central casting. I think there's many roles, but I think there's definitely ones that have been swapped out and they're saying, well, they were such and such, not on the good side. Now they've been swapped out. They're playing a role. I also think possibly and probably there are central casting for good characters that just need to be protected. You know, maybe a lot of the Trump family at different moments. But central casting is 146. It comes to Truth Social. It comes to New Jerusalem, and they talk about the New Jerusalem being this spaceship, this dove. And you got the whole thing with Space Force and Star Trek and warp speed, because they're all phrases in Star Trek and what warp speed is.
I'm wondering, are we seeing actors coming down from the ship, Star Trek style, and just playing a role from a moment, a day or two when they need to, and then they go back up, literally beam me up, Scotty, they go back up again. And that they've got that ability to do this. The Alliance, the off-world beings have got this ability to do exactly what needs to be done for the plan to wake humanity up in the safest and most protective way possible.
Not really getting a yes on that. We've got this 5, so something about the war. And then we've got the 3 of, so it feels like it's more about outing that there's people rounded up in the background and maybe for certain substances they're using in particular. Okay. And how a lot of people you think are good or really not good. Like, let's say the word Oprah there, right? Okay. And then this 8. So it's more a practical word and to do with the workings of the thing that's been going on for 4 years. Like, this is working through and more practical. I wonder if it's less Star Trek-y, like what you're talking about, and a little more practical, at least what the cards are saying here. Okay. And how a lot of it's like a nod to a lot of people being taken out of the picture and then replaced. So you think you're looking at everything looks the same, but when you look closely at this card, there's something misconstrued about it. And I feel like that could be looking closely at, for instance, they put up a bunch of pictures of Oprah and that other guy, The Rock. The Rock. They haven't been themselves for years. Yeah. Trudeau, there's about 4 of them. You know what I mean? 4 of the kind of looks 4 different Trudeaus. There's looks like Biden, you know, all those guys. I think it's more a practical nod to that. Okay, so central casting is more of a practical replace bad for or good, like you said. I don't think it has to be bad or good, just replacing people. Replacing. That, for whatever reason, and part of the situation we're in. Okay. It starts with W. I don't want to say that word again because saying a word too many times isn't a good idea. Yeah. Do you get with that shuffle, just on the same part of the question, do you get that that we'll get disclosure, full disclosure on, you know, the actors being played, the central casting? Do you think we'll get that? Full disclosure, Phil did something about that. Full disclosure is 1 and full conclusions 176 Back to the Future, November the 5th. I think in time and over time we will. Okay. Yeah, as needed and as and what's safe and to keep them safe, they will. Yeah. Okay. Level playing field 176 as well. Thanks, Janine. That's a lot of revealing, and thanks for the stuff with Michael, and that was interesting with JFK and Trump for sure. How can people find you? Rumble's a good one. I'm free on Rumble on Tuesdays. I do a quick draw. Yeah. So, but it's under Beyond Mystic. So you got to look up Beyond Mystic Rumble channel. Yeah. And you'll find me on Tuesdays and also on Thursdays. In fact, that's why I'm running here. I'm going to get ready for my next show, which is 4 o'clock Eastern Rumble show, the War Correspondent. And that's a good one. So those 2 are on Rumble. And on as a guest, and then I have my own website, the TBJ. That's you fill in the long form of that .com. I thought you were going to get a washing machine man and do a show with him, but no. I'm teasing you. Brilliant, thank you. Well, I'll put the links below, and you're on the Telegram, and Rumble will do that. JANINE channel. Yeah, on the Telegram. JANINE and the word channel at the end. Okay. JANINE channel. There you go. Rumble. And sorry. That's the Telegram channel. Yeah, okay. The TBJ. And thanks everyone. I'm on Locals on YouTube and Twitter. The links are below, and we've got until October the 2nd before the offer of the price just goes to the normal price. So get in now. And you'll see Janine
on there and across all the other channels as well. So, all right, everyone. Thank you, Janine. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Live
good
on
to
and
see you.
prosper. Take care. Thanks, Janine. God bless. Cheers. Bye.